What we have next on schedule is an exciting debate between two eminent ortho-oncosurgeons in Bangalore. I invite Dr. Suman Bairegowda, ortho-oncologist from Narayana Hridayalaya, and Dr. Pramod Chindar, ortho-oncologist from HCG Hospital, Bangalore, to participate in this debate on metallic versus biological prosthesis in bone sarcomas. Over to you both.
Greetings from Narayana Health City. So I'm Dr. Suman. So today I'm going to debate and talk about metallic prosthesis. Okay, so in this era, the world is ruled by implants from soft tissue to bone. So it helps in reconstruction as well as the replacement. So this is a case of osteosarcoma of distal femur. We have done a wide local excision. So there's a huge gap left. So what to use to fill this gap? So before thinking about what to use to fill this gap, the reconstruction method, what we use, should have certain criteria. The first one is it should be easily available, easy to use, should be stable, it should give excellent function, it should add to the quality of life, and should be less expensive, and should give the longevity. So there is no shortcuts when it comes to reconstruction of tumors in musculoskeletal oncology. We have to be bang on with the treatment. So we'll go one by one. First is the availability. To get allograft, that is size matched big allograft which we need in bone tumors, it's very, very difficult because hardly we have few bone banks across India. In Karnataka, if you take, there is only one bone bank, and this is the search I did yesterday. So you can see hardly few metatarsal and femoral heads are available for the reconstruction purpose. But when you do a resection like this, these metatarsal and femoral heads are nothing. You won't be able to replace with those small bones. So what is the options? So we have an easy option, just one call. In 20 minutes you have implants in your hospital. That is the mega prosthesis. So they are modular implants. You can keep adding and reconstruct from 20 centimeter to around, you can reconstruct from 2 centimeter to 20 centimeter, just how the kids play with the blocks. So next is the joint reconstruction. So there is no other construction which can give a result which is equivalent to a prosthesis when it comes to joints. So this is a simple case of osteosarcoma treated with chemotherapy, wide local excision done, put a hinge prosthesis. So the advantage of being, you can mobilize the patient from next day. So patient is doing the knee activity from the next day, and he'll be able to bear weight immediately from next day and walk. So that's how the patient is walking next day immediately after the surgery. And this is the function of the patient after a few months. So no extension lag, and he has an excellent knee flexion of around 90 degrees, and that's how he walks. You can't make out that there is a mega prosthesis or a metallic bone inside this body. So nowadays, we are using a rotatory platform, which not only gives the flexion and extension, also gives rotation to the joint. So that gives a more of a normal knee kind of function, resulting in better outcome and longer survival of the implant. So this is a case of parosteal osteosarcoma, wide local excision done. So the bone was irradiated, sterilized with radiation, put back, but I had to change the surface using a metal. That's a rotatory hinge platform. So that gives excellent function with a new, can you mute the volume please? PowerPoint volume, can you just mute it? Yeah. So that's the function of the patient. So she's getting a knee flexion of almost 120 degrees, which is almost equivalent to normal knee movement. So what is the option available with the biological? The first is the osteoarticular allograft. But a lot of studies have shown there are a lot of complications with osteoarticular allograft. For example, subluxation, non-unions, fracture. There is early collapse of joint resulting in the degenerative changes. So almost now it is out of fashion to use the osteoarticular allograft for reconstruction of joints. So the only way you can use a biological is to fuse the joint, to do an arthrodesis. This is arthrodesis done for the knee. So this is the gait of the patient. So you can compare between the function of the prosthesis and the gait. So it makes a huge difference in the functional outcome. So coming with children with growth potentials, we know that osteo and Ewings are more common in the first and second decades. These children will have a huge growth potential. So if you knock off the physis, the growth will be affected and they'll land up with limb-and discrepancy. So what is the option, biological options we have for this procedure is the rotationplasty. So that's how the rotationplasty leg look like. The leg is rotated posteriorly and the patient has to use this prosthesis, and that is the function of the patient. So that it has a huge psychosocial effect on the patient because the leg is rotated posteriorly. He cannot go to school. He cannot involve with his friends in the activities. So what option we have in the non-biological? We have implant which can grow inside the body that we call it as expandable prosthesis. So the implant is put in the patient body and kept in the magnetic coil when the patient comes for the follow-up, and the implant opens up. So this is the video how it does. So the implant, the leg is kept in the magnetic coil, so there is a magnetic field and the telescoping occurs. So each time when the patient comes for follow-up, we can expand about 3 to 4 millimeters. So this is an X-ray of the patient, immediate X-ray, there is no opening. So this is an X-ray after 2 expansion, you can see that implant is growing from within. So this is the function of the patient. So you can compare function of this patient to function of a rotationplasty. So this guy is like a normal kid, he can jump, he can run, he can do all the activities, he can mingle with his friends. So fantastic result. So coming to adjuvant treatment, we know that most osteosarcoma and Ewing sarcoma patients are on chemotherapy and radiation. So whatever reconstruction procedure we use should not affect the adjuvant treatment, because we know that oncological control is very important and sarcomas doesn't give second chance. So is this a case? Ewing sarcoma, 12-year-old girl, there's a large soft tissue component, chemo given, so that is the amount of bone we had to resect. So if I had to do a biological reconstruction in this case, I had to use a fibula, or I have to sterilize the bone and put back. But the thing is, because of large soft tissue component, we decided to give post-op radiation in this patient. And if you give radiation, there is high chance that the fracture may not get united to the patient bone. There's high chance that there's a fracture of the bone which you have used. So what we have done a simple spacer, that's a plate and the cement. So that is the function of the patient. So on this we can give radiation and the treatment is not affected, and she has excellent function. So sometimes we have to use a permanent spacer, for example, tumors in the proximal humerus, where we know that we have to take off a lot of deltoid and axillary and there won't be any shoulder movement left. So complete deltoid has been excised with the axillary now, so that's how the defect looks. So we use a spacer with the to the remaining stem. So it won't give shoulder function, but the patient will have a good elbow and the wrist function to do all his activities, and he can lift even considerable weight with this procedure. So coming to replacement of whole bone, the options with biological reconstructions are very, very, very minimal when you want to reconstruct the whole bone. For example, this case of chondrosarcoma, operated outside, some surgery done. So we had to replace the whole femur with acetabulum in this case, that's a defect. So replaced with the total femur replaced prosthesis and acetabulum with a simple mesh. That's how the X-ray look post-op. So that is the function of the patient. So imagine the patient is walking without acetabulum and whole femur has been replaced with metal. So this is one more example, case of tumor involving the total humerus. The total humerus has been excised, and that is the function of the patient, because we have excised a lot of delta in the axilla. Now the patient doesn't have the shoulder movement. So, but a good elbow movement to do his all activities. And he has some amount of shoulder movement because of the scapulothoracic movement which is there. Here. So, then one more indication is the, okay, then, okay, just 2 minutes, I'll finish. Okay, so patient with a poor survival, we know that patient is not going to live long. It is unfair to use a biological and wait them for the bone to unite. So in these cases, we can go for megaprosthesis. This is a case of CA prostate with bony mate. So wide excision done and replacement done. So that's a post function of the patient. So immediately he can walk. Now he's independent and he can do all his activities. So customize patient-specific implants. So we get an implant which can be ordered to the patient's size and shape, which can even fix to a small amount of bone and gives excellent results. But the problem with the implants which you used to see before are the breakage, polywear, and implant loosening. But we have answers for that. So we are having HA-coated stems which have both good integration with the native bone, and also uncemented processes what we are doing, giving excellent results. So we are not far from getting immortal processes which can live long. So biological has its own problems, non-union rates, high rate of fractures, need a lot of time for the union, so patient has to be non-weight bearing, infection rates, extended time, you need a trained oncoplastic surgeon to do it, and a small amount of risk of transmission of viral disease. So biological, non-biological has its all these advantages which I just discussed. So we don't have to shout or fight to end the debate. We can end with a lot of love. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm a slow surgeon. I believe in biological reconstruction to the core. Of course, there is no one answer. It has to be a hybrid. There is nothing like so we can't debate on each other's things. So that's why we took our own stance and everything is together. So I'll just go with one small example, that's about it. So biological reconstruction in our scenario is nothing but the most important and thing to be churned on. So that's what I would suggest. See, this is a 9-year-old boy who had a oops surgery. How many of you know what is oops surgery? I'm sure apart from oops surgery, that's oops is something you don't even plan and go inside and say, oops, oh, this is not my, there's something else. Then call somebody. So it's like that. That's called oops surgery. So they thought it was an infection. Standard. There is nothing like a wrong or right here. We're not debating on those things. It happens to everybody. It has happened to me before. So underwent that. So I had a osteosarcoma, referred for amputation. Then they came and we all evaluated. Then the standard regimen of a debate between what regimen to be given, MAP regimen versus non-MAP. We all always have that debate. So finished that, and this chemotherapy was given for 3 cycles. Adjuvant, bone started forming well. So this is how it looks. You understand what it means for all of us. You can see that big scar on the side. So that is oops. Like that really makes our life totally difficult. So with these things, so this was we operated about 9 years back, I would say. So this is the MRI which shows good bone stock. What I want to know in a biological reconstruction is a good bone stock, whether it is there or not, for us to reconstruct it. Srinivas and I did this actually in the initial years. So we removed that. We can see that scar thing there. So that the whole thing has to come out. If that thing doesn't come out, it's like an en-bloc resection. There is nothing like 98%, 99%. I'm sure we all agree on that in sitting in an oncology session. We're not even talking about those things. So but we still hear about 98% removal. It's 99%. There is nothing like that. It has to be en-bloc excision. That's how it's been excised. En-bloc. You take it out. You reuse the same bone, right? I'm sure you all know about it. I'll tell you how we have to do it here regularly. Take out in a separate table, because that's an non-oncology table. Separate it out. So you're not going back to the sterile field again. So you remove all the tissues and send it for a radiation. That's so much so that radiation is about 55 to 60 gray. It is like putting a Hiroshima, Nagasaki onto that bone. So that kind of a power, one single shot of radiation is going to kill everything. So get it back and give it some life. How do I give it life? From the opposite side, fibula. Take an opposite side fibula. It's all biological essentially. So we want as a child, and I think the best thing in these cases would something which can grow, something which can heal. And I am expecting in a non-metastatic case, I am expecting him to be a long-term survivor. So when it's a long-term survivor, I wouldn't want to go inside again and operate, I know this is all long surgeries, there is no doubt about it, and it requires a lot of expertise. 10, 12, 14 hours of surgeries. But yes, sometimes we end up all these problems. Look at the reconstruction I did. Isn't it beautiful? No, it is not. I mean, that day only I told that there is something going wrong. It's going to go wrong. So X-ray looks nicer for an orthopedic surgeon. All this for pathologists, it also looks nicer. And this is how it starts, problem. You know, these are the problems of biological reconstruction. There is no easy way out, and all medical team wanted it to be amputated. But patient's father, who's a teacher, he is not ready to get it amputated. He says, at any cost, no way. So a lot of dressings, wax, only one artery, what are you going to do? Cross-leg fibula, so cross-leg flap. At the end, it all took a delay of chemotherapy by 1.5 months. So finally, ended up having a saved leg with lot of problems. So are we talking, do you need these things or amputation would be better? What's your thought now? Was it worth it? Who says worth it? Please up. Ah, good, thanks. At least 50%, yes, because sometimes we all go through that phases. But I think that is a phase we all have to go through and take it and, you know, come out of it. When I had given it and I told amputation one day, you know, sometimes. So then I asked him to, he had gone back to his hometown, I asked him to send a picture, he sends me like this. I said, no, I want a leg picture. So he says, so then he comes back with this bone beautifully united. That's biology. You can't expect these things to happen in any other ways. It's complete biology. There are a lot of things nature does it for us. Like Rashmi is telling, has stopped. So this is the reconstruction. I mean, at a 5-year follow-up. So this one, I can't ask any implant to do it. If I put an implant inside, definitely no. But there is an implant metal there. There is nothing like a, so, but this is biology. I don't have to worry about. He plays football. He doesn't call me nowadays. I hope. So that's more than enough. So I called him yesterday. I called him to send a photo, and he sent me this. So on the right with the red shoes is the person, 9 years now, finished. I just want this photo. I don't want him to come with any other news for me. So thanks everyone. This is my team, and this is of course with all the team of. It's a combination. Hence the debate is we need both. So as Suman told, it is like Narendra Modi, and that it has to somewhere we have to merge that. But there are different schools of thoughts across the world. So it's where we have been taught how we apply it to our patients. Thank you for your attention. Any other questions? Probably we are open for another 3 minutes left. Rashmi?
What is the chance of second one disease in a biological processes? You are given 60-day radiation,
Yeah.
and a child after 5, 10, 15 years, the chance of second one disease.
Because of the radiation bone, there is no report so far. Because of the bone being radiated, there is no reported so far. One thing. It could be because of a margins error, could be a local recurrence. So far, bone being radiated and put it back and the tumor coming in that bone, there is no report. And imagine a 60 gray radiation, one single shot. Do we expect anything to be alive in that is a question. I mean, I wouldn't so. Srinivas, any thought?
Yeah, if there's a recurrence, basically because post-surgical technique. Procedure per se is full.
Yeah.
A lot of studies with more than 10 to 15 years of follow-up. Even in Tata, we presented highest case series of 75 cases, more than 10 years follow-ups. No secondary.
Usually not because of that radiation. There are multiple ways you sterilize this bone. This is one of the method. Yeah, and allografts, massive allografts. So all those things are there. So these are all some of the other biological reconstruction. It all, we have to, mix and match. There is nothing like one single thing for that person. It is not like a textbook. We are away from the textbook. And no two surgeries are alike in orthopedic oncology. Today I do, tomorrow it will not be like that. 100% I'll give it to you in writing today. I will not be like that. Every day we do a different surgery. Yeah. Any? Rashmi? Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Suman and Dr. Pramod, for that interesting debate. Now we move on to the last session in bone tumors, which is a discussion on limb salvage surgery in malignant bone tumors on the latest concepts by Dr. Srinivas, who is a orthopedic oncosurgeon in Apollo Hospital. Dr. Srinivas, over to you.
So, pediatric oncology is, at times it is very pleasing to see the results, like what Pramod showed, the long-term results. But what we go through, the process is very, very painful. And I always have very high regards for the pediatric oncologists, because we as surgeons, we see them once, twice, thrice, but then long-term chemotherapy, especially for leavings and things like that. Handling a child with fever at home is so difficult, but you guys handle them for a few months at your place, hospitals, and managing so many kids at a time. I have very high regards. I really want to thank all of you for a wonderful job you guys are doing, and I really mean it, okay? Now, the treatment always begins with a good diagnosis. If you don't get the diagnosis right, then whatever hi-fi surgery that we do or hi-fi chemotherapy is bound to fail. So I'll start with this clip. Lot of hard work, isn't it? That's what we do, but then we don't get our principles right, we end up having such mishaps. So getting the diagnosis the right way is very, very important, and at the same time, getting the management is also very important. So during the evaluation, we always ask for the right investigation, the proper X-rays, an MRI, and we always blame the pathologist because they don't give the diagnosis, but then a lot of things lies within us. We don't give them good tissues. We don't evaluate the patients correctly. We don't give them proper, solid, viable tumor tissue for them to give the diagnosis. So getting a proper MRI, doing it from the right area, the right person doing the biopsies is very, very critical. And always have an interaction with the pathologist and radiologist before you conclude on the diagnosis. Do not assume at all. Make sure that you are absolutely sure before you initiate the treatment. But in spite of all these things, we come across all kinds of biopsies. If you see incision done right on the middle of the knee, contaminating the cortical mechanism, which is the most important aspect for reconstructions. Multiple patients come to us with all kinds of biopsies. What happens is, when such biopsies come, we end up excising a lot of tissues which are very critical for limb salvage reconstruction. We somehow do some kind of a jugaad to make sure that we still give some kind of adequate function, but it's never adequate and never proper. Now, these are some of the worst or badly done biopsies, leading to a lot of contaminations, a lot of tissue loss. You have to involve the plastic surgeons, multiple incisions, high rate of infections post-surgery. If you have to do an open biopsy, generally we do needle biopsies. So sometimes in children, I prefer to do open biopsies because we don't want to repeat the biopsies, and sometimes we have to give them anesthesia, so I as well do a small open biopsies. Do a mini open biopsy to ensure that we don't contaminate much. Follow the principles of biopsy. Whenever we put drains, make sure that we are close to the incisions. These are the principles we have to follow. I'm talking here about these because I assume that there are some pediatric surgeons as well here. Most of the time, we end up getting a good diagnosis with a properly done needle biopsies. We use these needles. Very small incision, very small contamination. It's easy to reconstruct after this. And whenever you need, we take experts' help to do the biopsies. If you need a radiologist help, you can take, but make sure that you inform or talk to them about the track of biopsy. Now, once you get the diagnosis, it's not a one-man show. It needs an entire team of experts, medical oncology, radiation oncology, good physiotherapy, and a good social workers. And that's why these patients should preferably be done in a tertiary care center with all these facilities. Decision making is always not about the surgeon or the oncologist. It's always involving the patients and particularly the parents, because they have to cooperate. We have to understand the financial implications before we plan. We debated on implants, we debated on biological reconstruction, but it all depends on how the patient can afford and what is their lifestyle. Now, there's always one question which is commonly asked: limb salvage, does it increase the local recurrence rates? So there are a lot of literatures available which talk about there's not much of a difference in terms of local recurrence or the survival when it comes to limb salvage versus an amputation. So both have an equal kind of a follow-up data. And the thing is, limb salvage should be done in a proper way. Only then we can actually compare the results. So today the standard is to give a good neoadjuvant chemotherapy, good surgical excision, and followed by chemotherapy and rehabilitation. That's the gold standard. Now, of course, there are a lot of advantages by giving a chemotherapy before surgery. It downsizes the lesion, surgery becomes much more easier. In children, particularly when we have to plan reconstruction with custom-made processes, it is probably going to give us time if we give chemotherapy. Limb salvage is made easier because we have very good implants, we have surgical techniques which have been improved. Surgeries which were taking 10 hours, 15 hours are being done at 3 hours, 4 hours today. So the infection rates have come down, flap necrosis have come down. We have very good vascular surgeons and plastic surgeons to help us to do all kinds of reconstructions. But then limb salvage has to be done with the proper technique. We have to use wide excision. We have principles which are guidelines which have been laid down. We have to follow these principles, otherwise the limb salvage is bound to fail due to recurrence. Now, if suppose that's the tumor in the body, this black thing is a capsule, and that's probably these tumor cells which are there on the capsule. So wide excision involves removing the tumor with some kind of a normal tissue all around the tumor. Only then we call it as a wide excision. So there are two criteria to do limb salvage. One, we should be able to excise the tumor completely. Number two, when the limb which is preserved should have a useful function. Only if these two can be met, we should attempt a limb salvage. But in children, there are issues like growth disturbances. When we excise a bone with growth plate, they're bound to have shortenings. And then procuring the right size implant or right size graft is very difficult in children, time consuming, expensive as well. And then we also have to think about the long-term implications. Suppose you put an implant and the implant tends to fail after 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, we don't know. So we have to think about that as well. But then of course, the most important thing is right now the patient needs to be ambulant, the chemotherapy has to be completed, the survival is most important at the same time. And we have all kinds of demands now from parents as well. The children are quite active. So we have to ensure that these things are kept in mind when we plan the limb salvage. So I'll go to some of the cases. Of course, Suman and Pramod has shown you some of the examples of kind of limb salvage that is possible. So I'll just go through some of my cases which I've done last 10 years. This is a case of a osteosarcoma involving the entire humerus. Patient took chemotherapy, entire humerus is involved. In adults, we have different ways of reconstruction. In children, it's quite difficult. So in this case, what I did is we excised the whole lesion, but how do you reconstruct it? For a 7-year-old boy, we don't have implants which match these things. So in this case, I managed to get an implant which was customized, a smaller size implant. It was implanted, and he's got a reasonably good elbow function. He's completing his chemotherapy right now. So again, a lot of planning, and I was very worried about how this is going to come out because there was a lot of implant putting into a small limb, and the results we don't know, and I really don't know how long this implant is going to last. That's the truth. This is a case which I hope Pramod remembers. When we were operating together, we did this. We excised the humerus. A small bit of the humerus was left behind, was normal in the lower part. We kept that, and then we radiated this bone, reimplanted this, and that's my good friend. Do you recognize yourself? Okay, this is around 8 to 10 years back. So that's the humerus which has been radiated and put back with a plate. We are very happy. We are so super excited, and then we didn't realize that the blunder that we have created. So what happened is, after 2 months during chemotherapy period, the child, we gave him a bag to protect the limb. He wanted to get up out of the bed. We used the same hand, and then it fractured. Then we realized it. I wish I could have put a longer plate. But the problem is, in children, we don't get these small plates so long. So again, he had fractured, so we didn't have time to get an implant. We put a plate which was again not sufficient. It was not sufficiently long enough. We put the plate, we thought, okay, fine, so some problems have solved. And then he started coming for follow-up. One thing we started realizing is the bone started getting absorbed. Osteonecrosis is happening. And then another problem patient had, But then I just kept quiet. But children, the most important thing is you need to be patient. You need to observe what's going to happen. We observed, and then we saw that the bone is getting reformed. So whenever the bone necrosis happens, there's a creeping substitution and new bone formation happens. A lot of remodeling happens. So we're very happy. But then after 2.5 years, he developed small lung nodules on one side. Then we excised it, did a metastatectomy, and gave him second-line chemotherapy. He was fine. 5 years later, he kept on coming for follow-up. At 5 years, he said, I got some bump on my head. And then I got an X-ray and CT. There was a solitary metastasis in the skull. Bone scan and CT scan was normal. So what do we do now? So I handed over to the neurosurgeon. So they excised. They excised the skull. They put a titanium plate and then rotation flap. Okay, that was fine. After 6 months, he came back again. Again solitary meds. Again he wanted to fight, and we did another surgery. And then after 1 year, he developed one more. And then that's the time when I gave up, and the patient gave up, and finally he succumbed to death just recently. It's a sad story, but the problem, number of surgeries and all those things. So we don't know where to stop sometimes. There's a guy who had a Ewing sarcoma with a pathological fracture, so they gave him radiation and chemotherapy. Excised the tumor, radiated it. The bone was weak because it was a pathological fracture plus radiation was given. So what I did is I added a vascular fibula to this and put a plate again. This plate was not customized for him. So in this one screw hole, I put 2 screws because we had to do some kind of a thing to fix the bone. So excised it, put the plate, and started rehabilitating him. And after 2 years, he developed AML, probably because of the chemotherapy complications, and he succumbed to death. Limb was fine, but he had other problems to deal with. Anyway, so sometimes the patient's affordability is not much, so we have to come out with innovative techniques. So this is one way we could reconstruct. We can just put a simple, excise the tumor, put a simple nail. It doesn't cost much, 500 rupees nail, and put a cement. And then, it produces the same results as a mega processes. So the cost is less, function is the same. Now, this is another case of extracorporeal radiotherapy, osteosarcoma patient. It was a very long segment, so a lot of people recommended me to add a vascularis fibula, but it adds to the surgical time, the cost, and all those things. So I just radiated and put a 22 centimeters bone back, and then this patient went on, did very well. After 7 years, she got married. She had a child last month. She has good function and no complaints at all. If you see the bone, you can hardly make out this bone was radiated and put back. It's completely remodeled itself. She's cured of the disease. This is another case of osteosarcoma. I put a nail in this case to fix the radiated bone. She was lost for follow-up for 3 years. After 3 years, I saw her. I was surprised. She was doing everything that a normal human being does. The bone is completely remodeled. You can't even make out that this bone was radiated and reimplanted. So sometimes we ourselves are astonished by the results that we are seeing sometimes. So another 10-year-old boy, when the joints are involved, it's always a challenge because the growth plate is involved. So when you excise, the shortening can happen. So reconstruction is always a challenge. This is a technique which Suman displayed in this PowerPoint. You put an expandable mega process. Patient undergoes one surgery, and after that he comes to the OPD. He puts his limb in this magnetic coil, and then it turns, and you can expand by a few millimeters. This boy is around 6 years follow-up now. Does everything that a normal human being does. The only thing is every 3 months he has to come to Bangalore for expansion. He's almost completing 6.5 centimeters of expansion is completed. So he's got a near normal limb now. The problem is sometimes these patients have to come back for these kind of expansions. So again, this is a bit of a challenge. So a few months back, I did this case in Delhi Apollo. Another company from Germany which manufactures expandable devices. So we didn't have much time, so we had to rush in and get this implant. It has never been imported before, so they've had a lot of issues getting with the implant through the customs. Finally, we managed to implant this. So basically what happens is when you implant this, there is one electrode which is placed under the skin in the subcutaneous plane, and there is a small device which is given to the patient. A small device is given to the patient. This is and you keep this on the thigh, and it will stimulate the electrode, and the processes expands by 1 millimeter every day. So they don't have to come repeatedly to the hospital. They can expand the implant at home, staying at home. So, so now I think demands are increasing. Probably they're going to ask for wireless devices now. So we are moving on from comfort to super comfort. So, but then that people ask what's the cost of that. I say it's a Mercedes-Benz economy version. So that's what it costs, but not all of us can afford that. So we have other methods of reconstruction. Children, it works wonders. It's one of my favorite surgeries that I always enjoy doing it. Rotation plasty, where the tumor is excised with the knee joint, and then the remaining part of the leg is not amputated. We just rotate it and reimplant the bone back. So basically what happens is the ankle is migrated up, and the ankle becomes the knee joint, and then the foot becomes the below knee stump. And you give a processes below this, external processes, and basically you're converting an above knee amputation into a below knee amputation. So the function is much better. So these children can do anything. This patient I had operated a few years back, he was lost to follow-up, and suddenly after 3 years I saw him. So basically that's how the limb looks like. He was 3 years old when I operated. Now I think he's 6 years old. Pramod, you remember this child? Yeah, okay. So basically, they can play basketball, they can play football, they can swim, they can do everything that a normal human being does. At home, they can remove the the external process and walk barefoot also. It's a little awkward gait, but function is good because one surgery, doesn't cost much. They don't need revision surgeries like in mega processes. Very pleasing. Only thing is, the cosmetically it doesn't look very appealing. So some of parents are kind of scared to get these surgeries done. But it needs a lot of counseling and little practical planning. Sometimes when the knee joints are involved, we generally do on amputations, but we are now extending the limb salvage options to patients. So if you can stick to the principles of wide excision, you can do any kind of surgery basically. So here again, very badly involved joint. So we did an extra articular resection, got a good clearance, and put a composite. Basically, putting a distal femur implant, a proximal tibia implant. So that kind of thing. But then these surgeries are bound with a lot of risks and complications. So after 3-4 days, he developed a flap necrosis. He underwent a secondary flap surgery. He recovered after that. He's on chemotherapy. The one most important thing is do not delay chemotherapy. I personally believe that do not delay chemotherapy. Okay, a couple of weeks of delay is fine, but beyond that, you need to take a call. If you have to do amputation, you have to do. But I think life comes before limb. So yeah, there are some roles for palliative surgeries. This is a child who had undergone chemotherapy in Sri Lanka, and the medical oncologist referred this patient to us for a limb salvage. I did a PET scan, and then I saw that there were spine mets, small spine mets and lung mets were there. So I called the medical oncologist and I told, look, he's got metastasis. What do I do? They said, send the patient back. We will ask our surgeon to do a hip decirculation. I said, why? Why hip decirculation? If he's going to survive for a few months, let's do something which will make him walk immediately and get him rid of pain. So, so what I did is I excised the specimen, lesion, and then put a nail, a small size nail, and put cement, and next day, and after 2 days, he started walking actually. I used to see him in Sri Lanka every 3 months. He survived for 2 years. He was doing very well, going to school, limb was very strong, the father was extremely happy. After 2 years, suddenly the meds suddenly flared up in 1 month and he died. But the point is, 2 years he had a very beautiful, disease-free survival and good quality of life. So that's where some kind of these surgeries do help to some extent, which doesn't increase the cost. All right, so results are not always as what we think we want. Sometimes we end up with infections, flap necrosis. Somebody was asking about the local recurrence. This is a case of extracorporeal radiotherapy. Somebody was asking whether the radiation produces risk of local recurrence. Now, this local recurrence is not because of the ECRT, it's because of me. Probably I've probably compromised the margins here, and there's a local recurrence. Unfortunately, we gave him chemotherapy, but the child did not survive. So as surgeons, sometimes we spend some sleepless nights when such things happen, but we have to be prepared. Long term, when you put these implants, sometimes what happens is they can break, they can loosen. This lady who had osteosarcoma 10-15 years back, She came to me with this implant breakage and loosening, a lot of pain, so we had to revise this implant. So it was a little difficult to do the revision. We had to remove the whole implant with the cement, but we could reconstruct pretty well. Some of them, these reconstructions may fail. Some of them will end up with amputations because of the failures of these implants. Well, I have no shame in doing amputations if limb salvage is not possible, but wherever possible, we should attempt limb salvage. Well, there are small things. Once the patient is cured of the disease, there are these scars which will kill them, which will basically depress them for long. There are things which we can do to their limbs to hide the scars, but to the mind, I don't know what to do. They need to work on it. Yes, I'm done. Thank you. Perfect, on time.
The audience.
Just out of curiosity, just when you do rotation flaps,
Yeah.
so that by
Rotation plasty.
yeah, rotation plasty,
Yes.
that will make the functionalities better.
Yes.
That's why you do that.
Yes.
So because
Basically, what happens is, suppose there's a tumor in the distal femur, we tend to do a above knee amputation. If you can put a mega process, it's fine, but when you can't afford, what you do is, instead of doing an above knee amputation, we convert that into a below knee amputation. So the function is much better. If you do an above knee amputation, if you put a processes which is very heavy, the children don't use it. But if you convert it into a below knee amputation, the function is much better. The results are much better.
yeah, when you rotate that the foot backward,
Yes.
that functionally becomes better.
No, it's because we need the foot is like this normally. You can't have a knee joint
Going
popping
up.
like that. You
That's
need a
right.
knee joint which flexes backwards. So you change the direction of the knee, of the ankle. So basically the ankle dorsiflexion becomes the knee flexion. You're converting the flexion to this. That's
Yeah.
more appropriate for the knee.
Thank you.
Any questions for the debate session for Dr. Pramod and
Thanks for the excellent talk. If a patient has any sarcoma, Ewing's or osteosarcoma, and you're going for which one would you prefer? The patient is financially all right. So
Yeah.
you would prefer a biological implant or a metallic implant? If they
No,
put it on-
there is no fixed way of doing things. It all depends on one, the surgeon's preference, is expertise, his experience, and availability of mega processes, availability of money, and a lot of factors are looked into. But what happens is when you're looking at children, if you put mega processes where, if you feel the mega process is going to live only for 10 years or 15 years, the implant, and if the biological reconstruction is going to last forever, then we prefer to do biological reconstructions. Okay, so we have to debate on both. And sometimes around the joint, to do a biological reconstruction, it's very difficult. We are trying to do now, and some good results have come. But around the joint, we generally tend to go towards mega processes. But in diaphyses and other areas, wherever we can do biological, we prefer doing biological. There are problems. The non-weight bearing, we can't make them weight bear immediately. So there are issues, we have to balance it out. Yeah.
Yeah, so especially in the pediatric age group who are left with severe growth potential, and we are knocking off the physis, it is better to go for expandable prosthesis. Otherwise, the other option. Okay, so in pediatric age group where we have to resect the physis for oncological clearance, it is better to go for an expandable prosthesis because otherwise they'll end up with a limb length discrepancy. If money is not the problem, if money is the issue, then the best treatment is rotation plasty.
any questions for Dr. Pramod?
Biological.
He does
No.
both. They're just lying, okay?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
don't believe everything they say.
I'm prepared to play. It is not, absolutely. Money is the last. Money, of course, it is required, but that's not your deciding factor.
Sometimes, actually, we
Yeah.
also err towards certain things that we like.
Yeah.
That's the little bit of there's a lie in everything that we say. Sometimes we are comfortable with certain things. We have seen certain things in our own experience. We tend to counsel them a little bit sometimes towards what we want also. So we have to be a little aware of what we are doing. Yeah.
Question to Suman. Question to you and Srinivas. Between ECRT versus pasteurization, if you have both, which one would you prefer?
Sir, actually, the trial which was done in TMH about pasteurization was a disaster. So they did 10 cases, the results were very poor. So I am not that favoring pasteurization. So I prefer ECRT, but nowadays I am doing liquid nitrogen. So that's an excellent. We can do a pedicle liquid nitrogen, so I don't have to cut at two hand. I can cut at one place and dip it in the theater. So it saves me money of radiation also. My radiation oncologist doesn't like me for that, but I think now I am started moving to liquid nitrogen. Either it's ECRT or liquid nitrogen, not pasteurization.
Not pasteurization.
Yes.
I have not done pasteurization, so I'm not the right person to compare and say, but whatever last 10,
Pasteurization, I had some experience in Singapore. Professor Fo was actually in 1980s, late 80s and early 90s. Prof Fo was the one who started that. He still believes it's good, but it is all depends on your comfort and your areas. But he says equal results with that. I think it depends on how your brain and your heart goes with the procedure, and you can make it better. Probably, I think, as he said, the reports are not really too far from each other.
So probably one thing that would probably tilt the balance towards pasteurization is the bone strength post-treatment.
Yeah.
So that's what you guys
Yeah.
keep telling, that bone strength is better in pasteurization. But I don't know about disease control.
So
I'm not very
actually,
sure.
I tell you, in that 10 cases, we don't had any problem with the oncology purpose, but the problem is there were a lot of fractures. So it was actually opposite to the results which are mentioned. So not many people are doing pasteurization at present. So those who have radiation, think they are doing radiation now, people are moving to liquid nitrogen because that's the only advantage is you can just cut at only one end. That's all.
just want to add one point. See, what happens is these are, there's no clinical data. It's a long learning curve. You can't experiment. Like I've been doing radiation therapy, ECRT thing, and I know the long-term results. So I'm very comfortable with it. If you want to do something new, this long learning curve, failures are high and things like that. So I think there's a little bit of a difficulty to switch to new technique, which you are not sure about. So that's another thing which you have to keep in mind.
One more question.
Just being a radiation oncologist, just wanted to know, so this liquid nitrogen, isn't it surface dependent? Like, is there anything like a depth of penetration and all? Like radiation, definitely it will go inside. So just my thoughts, I want to know what is the thing.
One second. They can't hear you in the back.
So what we do when we are using a liquid nitrogen is, once we isolate the tumor, we'll isolate the tumor body, completely we'll cover it. Then we take out all the soft tissue component which is there, so that we are keeping minimum amount of bone as much as possible. We open the medullary canal so that liquid nitrogen goes inside, and we are making multiple hole in the bone so that liquid nitrogen is reaching all the corners. Okay? But the studies, there are studies with a longer follow-up which has shown no oncological problem by doing this. So oncologically, it is absolutely fine.
So maybe, Suman, because you're drilling those holes into the bone, that's making it brittle.
So these are small 1 or 2 millimeter bones, sir. I know you want me to tell ECRT is better, but
No, I'm trying to say that.
Pramod, what's your experience with, because we have used both, isn't it? We have used radiation as well as liquid nitrogen. So, I mean, can you just share briefly your...
Yeah, so this is about 10 years of our small experience where we have shifted again, like someone, from ECRT to the liquid nitrogen in about 100 plus cases. So ECRT, the thing is a time, essentially. Both are equally good, strong bone. We feel, as a person, we feel that it's pretty good and strong. ECRT, what I felt was a bit of a time-consuming one thing, and number one, some places there may be some sterility compromise. I know we all pack it well, send it well, receive it well, all those things. There would be some sterile compromise. And as he said, the other one is a pedicle. You don't even have to cut the bone. The other problem in our biological reconstruction is the healing. When the bone unites, right? So when the children, no problem, it will fantastically unite. There's no issues. Whereas in a bit more adolescence, say 18, 20, 21, that time, union is a big problem. So here you're just dipping the diseased part. It's pretty difficult. It's not so easy. Diseased part into the liquid nitrogen and take it out. I feel such thing, it helps well. So the long-term results, there are certain problems with liquid nitrogens because the bones are not as strong as the ECRT. in the long term. So it gets resolved. That's why what we do is we put cement inside that and most of the time strengthen them and also assess the quality of the bone. Yeah, I think we'll end this question. Sorry. Any questions, we can take it. Anything into that? That's it, right. Thanks.